Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today, I will be ranking all 88 brawlers in Brawl Stars, along with my friend Itsme, based on how well we think they'll perform after the new gadget changes, hypercharges, and balance changes coming to the game. Keep in mind this tier list is made specifically for ranked, so grab some food and enjoy the tier list. Alright, so for starting off with the first brawler, 8-bit, personally I think high B tier would be the best ranking for him because of his
I'd put him in low A. He's
low
an
A.
insane mid. TP gadget season, everything.
Okay, so I guess you can say low A. Low A for 8-bit works because of his teleport and his viability on heist, especially as not only as a last pick tank killer, and also as a good vision for mid. Next we have Amber. Personally, I say high A tier for Amber because of her ability to hold down a lane and bird the grass and maps like last stop and double switch.
High A tier. She's so versatile. Like, never a bad pick.
Yeah, she can be used on any map. Alright, next we have Ashe. Ashe is pretty situational, but with his hypercharge being only 2 supers and how much he's able to dominate as an insane last pick, but it's kind of hard-ish. So if he gets in the craziest draft, I think he could be A tier, maybe high A tier, but considering how hard it is, I'd say low A tier, in all honesty.
Honestly, I put him low S tier. He's a insane aggro pick. His gadget rework kind of changes a lot for him. He can just spam his gadgets out.
True.
His hypercharge is still insane.
Yeah, considering it's only 10 seconds for both of his gadgets, it's kind of insane. So I'll put him, I would say mid A tier. And next we have Barley. So Barley, he's gonna get a crazy change. His gadgets are like 15 seconds long. You can spam out his heals. Personally, for me, I would say low A tier. Again, there are a lot of good brawlers in the beginning, it seems. But I think low A tier would be good.
I think low A tier is fine. So he's gonna be a consistently good thrower. The gadget rework's gonna help him a lot with the healing.
Alright. So low A tier it is. So B. So B honestly is a crazy with a hypercharge. Her range is insane. She'll be a crazy pick as like a rusher now at this point. Not really as a rusher, but like as a really good tank counter, not only because of her super, but like because of her hypercharge. So with the hypercharge, she charges it fairly quickly, and with like 2 or 2.5 supers, and on top of that, the big sting damage is insane. It's 5,500 damage per super, but I don't think it'll change her that much. I think she's high B tier.
I think I'm gonna put her low A tier just because her hypercharge makes her better against snipers with the slow. You just auto aim your shots, so I always hit them. I put her low A.
I guess. All right, that makes sense. But I'll leave her low B. Probably the highest she'll be on B tier, like the best of the best in B tier. All right, so Belle is honestly the definition of a balanced brawler. I just think she's B tier. I just think she's straight up B tier because such a balanced brawler. And if used properly, especially with those gadget change, she'll be having 4 or 5 chops on the map in like a bounty game. I think she'll still be good, but I still think she's gonna be mid to high B tier.
Yeah, I mean the gadget change is gonna make her a little more toxic just with the spamming traps, but other than that, she's pretty balanced.
All right, yeah, I get that. All right, so next you have BB. So BB, in all honesty, she got a really crazy gadget change where her heal's only like 12 seconds. But even though her gadget's only 12 seconds, there's nothing really useful for it. If she'll get countered out by, she's still countered out by any stun. And even though her hypercharge started every 2 seconds, and it's really good, that's the only thing she has going for her. Without her hypercharge, she's absolutely useless. She's not that great. So honestly, I'd say C tier because she's really tanky. She has a lot of utility. She can't really dish anything real crazy stuff out unless she gets her hypercharge.
Yeah, she's just like one of those brawlers where like you don't really have a situation to go her.
Alright.
So,
now a new brawler that's gonna benefit from this gadget change is Bonnie. So I first think she'll be D tier actually now, because now she'll have infinite gadgets, so she has speed, so she'll be able to at least contend with the snipers now. She's a tanky sniper kinda, and she'll be able to use her assassin capabilities a lot more. because she'll be having her super a lot more because she'll have speed.
I'd still honestly I'd put her in high F tier just because yes, she is like the sniper that becomes an assassin, but once she goes into her assassin form, she's literally useless for the rest of the game
That
until she gets
is
her cannon form back.
that is true. I guess we'll put her in high F tier then. Alright, so Bo. Bo with 8 mines, personally, I feel like he'll be our first S tier brawler because he has two choke points he can easily hold down. He'll have pretty much insane lane control, considering that, let's say on dueling beetles, there's 3 lanes, and you put mines on the 2 edges of the lanes, with like a hypercharged mine on the left and the normal mines on the right. They can't really push past them, and they'll get countered out, and then Bo can just replace the mines. So honestly, I feel like S tier is really good for him right now. Probably low S tier.
Yeah, low S tier. He still gets countered by like really aggro, but other than that, he's pretty insane.
Yeah. Alright, next you have Brawl. So honestly, I think Brock should go low B tier because you can't spam out his wall breaks anymore, so he's not that much more unique from any other wall break. And in the higher levels of play, his shots aren't really that easy to hit now because it's like they can just come in the mid range and just dodge every shot, and it's pretty hard to hit his shots in all honesty in the higher levels of play. So honestly, I think B tier, bottom B tier would be good for him.
Yeah, right now in the map rotation, he's only done like 1 or 2 maps like out in the open, and he doesn't really have a niche right now.
Yeah. Alright, speaking of niches, Bull. Bull got his stomper every 10 seconds now. Every super is going to be crazy with Bull. But I still think it's nowhere near his meta yet. He hasn't been great, especially in monthly finals. He hasn't been like picked nearly as much in any way. But I feel like with this gadget change, he won't be like horrible anymore. I think he'll probably be B tier in my opinion, mid to high B tier.
I would put him in low A tier just because I'm just scared of a bull meta. I don't know. Stomper every super is like basically his only weakness, where his super goes way too far. Besides his super speed, but if he gets a Stomper every super, I feel like that's gonna be pretty strong, especially with his DPS and HP.
All right. Yeah, I'll put him probably as high B tier. Probably works in my opinion. And if we take into account, yeah, all right, this makes sense. All right, next we have Buzz. Buzz, in all honesty, I feel like Buzz doesn't really have much of a niche in this meta. With the gadget change, he will be able to get around the map better, considering he'll have that gadget to move around. And with the gadget change with the sight, he'll be really good again on Snake Prairie. Like, as if he wasn't already good, he'll be even better considering he'll have infinite gadgets. So I think high C tier will be good for him.
Yeah, high C tier is fun. I mean, he doesn't really have any specific niches. Like I don't know. His mechanics are pretty strong. Like the stun is kind of insane for his range.
Yeah, but he also gets countered out pretty easily. Any stun puts like a dent in his game plan. Alright, Byron. Byron, I think honestly, with the heal and the how good he is right now, I put him in A tier because of his viability and his versatility on like as a gem grab mid, also as like a knockout healer with like the Kid Daryl strat, and as well as a sniper in general.
He's like stats wise, he's broken. I mean, he can damage people, he can heal teammates. He's one of the highest ranges in the game. I think he's always gonna be A tier from now on, especially when he has his hybrid charge and become even better.
Yeah, that makes sense. Alright, now we have Carl. So, Carl, his hypercharge isn't that good, but he does cycle it a lot, and he gets stat buffs from it. So I'm thinking high B tier for him because he's gonna. I feel like he was already a decent versatile pick on like every mode. Like you can see a Carl be picked into any mode on ranked, but he's also now his hypercharge is kind of wasted. I feel like they could have done a lot more with his hypercharge, like make it somewhat like the mutations, where he was just going at the speed of sound. So honestly, I think high B tier would be a good spot.
I think low A tier, honestly. The hybrid charge it cycles really fast, and like the stat buff for Carl is really insane because like all he has going for him is his stats. And the speed
True.
buff works pretty well with his super, so he's
And on
in and
top
out
of
a
that, he
lot
also
faster.
gets a not ignorable and unignorable stat change. So yeah, I'll say
Yeah.
low A works. And he cycles through it really quickly. Alright, Colette. Honestly, other than on maybe on some heist maps, like let's say maybe hot potato if you're having niche, I really don't think she's really that great. And she's only used as a tank counter on like when it's like double tank, and I feel like there'll be better options than Colette. And if they pick anything that goes, yeah, I just feel like Colette isn't that great. I'd probably put her on low B tier.
I'd put her in mid B tier. I mean, she's like kind of still pretty dominant in heist, and she just destroys those tanks. So I think she definitely has a place, just not the best pick right now.
Alright, I can see that. Alright, now Colt. Colt with his 11-second reload on his reload gadget. 11-second cooldown on his reload gadget. I feel like that's an insane buff for him, and the wall breaks can work. So, but it does take some skill. Even though you have a lot of bullets, you can't hit a single one. Colt's not going to be that great. So, personally, I feel like B tier, maybe a little bit above Colette, and B tier would be a perfect spot for him.
Yeah, that's like he's a skilled brawler. Even if you have infinite ammo, you can't hit anyone. Doesn't.
Alright, next we have Crow. So, Crow is a brawler that I personally only see on Kaboom Canyon and on like some grassy maps, like give vision on very niche scenarios. And he's only really good on heist for like heist damage as well. Those are the only two real things about him. So honestly, I would say mid C tier.
I'd put him high C tier.
High C tier.
He's a pretty good controller with the gadget change. I mean, 2 seconds slow for basically the whole game is pretty strong in my opinion. And the poison also like doesn't really allow him to heal, and he can kind of like make some game-saving plays with his hypercharge. So he definitely has like some usability, but there's better picks right now.
I feel like he'd be a little bit below Buzz right now. Alright, now Daryl. Daryl is honestly one of the best last picks right now. A really good tank that can go in, just some damage, especially with Kit. I feel like he's low S tier, honestly. Good last pick on Bounty and Knockout. Decent in Brawl. Really good gem grab last pick. And yeah.
He's just good on every map and every mode right now. There's really nothing he can do.
Yeah. Alright, now Edgar. Honestly, with that with that gadget change being 23 seconds for his shield, taking so long for Edgar stuff, honestly I think D tier is probably the best for him. He's low-key screwed.
Yeah.
Alright, now I think we can also universally agree that Ems is even worse than Edgar. Considering that even with the gadget change, nothing else really changed with her. She feels kind of outdated. Feels like once you know how to play against her, it feels pretty easy to counter.
Yeah, I mean, their super's pretty good for shutting down tanks, but you can't really cycle them that often.
Yeah. Alright, next we have Eve. So honestly, I feel like Eve is maybe mid to low A tier because of the control that her hypercharge gives, along with it being a good water walker on maps like out in the open. But she still does get countered by some snipers when she doesn't have her super. But with her super, she'll be able to gain map control and push up with the Eve baby. So personally, I think mid to low A tier would be good for her.
I put her in, yeah, that's a good spot.
Alright. Now, this hurts for me to put this since Fang's one of my favorite brawlers, but I personally think Fang has to be C tier. Takes 4 supers for his hypercharge, only really good in 5v5. Not really bringing much to the table in ranked. So I'll be putting him maybe above BB, maybe below honestly, because at least BB has the tankiness now with the heal gadget. So I feel like putting Fang in low C tier probably works.
Fang can work on some maps in like last big ranked, like into squishy comps, but other than that, he doesn't really have a good place right now.
Alright, honestly, I feel like Frank's gonna be S tier with this gadget change, bro. The fact that he has infinite ways to just completely shut down any stuns and knockbacks is just gonna make him completely broken beyond notice. Especially with the fact that his kit hasn't been touched at all, other than the fact that they just give this gadget change really easily.
Yeah, I mean his hypercharge charge is way too fast. He's faster than Max. It's 15,000 HP. Anti crowd control gadget. It's just kind of OP.
It's just too much for, like, honestly. As a last pick, this guy is toxic. As a last pick, should max him out immediately this season. All right, next we have Gale. Honestly, I feel like Gale's fallen off so hard. There's so many other better picks than him. Honestly, I'd really see him putting D tier and honestly maybe even high F tier, considering that his gadget change, he has 20 seconds per gadget, and the fact that it's kind of bad. Like, Griff is better. Like, honestly, most of these other tank counters are better. He's probably the worst tank counter in this meta.
Honestly, I'd put Gale above Ems in D tier just because I feel like they kind of Gale just has a better role than Ems right now. He's just more range, and the supers are kind of similar.
I guess he does have a small niche that he could still be used in the meta, even though Ems has, like, literally no place. Alright, so next we have Gene. I think Gene's high A tier. He's a staple on knockout, staple on bounty. Nothing else really else to say. He's a really good gem grab mid, really good vision into those bushes. So I think high A tier will be pretty good for him.
Yeah.
And we'll be seeing a lot of him in rank, since now he'll be completely maxed out for free for everyone to use. So this is gonna be, you're gonna be seeing a lot of Genes in your rank games. Alright, next we have Griff. In my opinion, Griff is really underrated. I feel like if into the right comp, he'll absolutely completely delete all the brawlers, like all the tanks, especially when when his hyper comes out, it's actually gonna be over for this game. But honestly, I think very high B tier, low A tier, maybe on par with B. Honestly,
I think I put him above B.
Above B,
just because he's a good tank counter and thrower counter.
Yeah,
Because the wall
of his
break, which is
break.
something like no other brawlers really have.
Yeah. Alright, next you have Grom. Grom with that hypercharge low key looks juicy. 4,000 damage per thing, and if they get twice, it's 8,000 damage. But it still is really hard to hit his initial shots against good players. So honestly, for that reason, I might have to put him below Bull.
I think below Bull is fine. I guess he still gets countered by assassins really, really hard.
Yeah. Oh wait, I forgot to also take into account that his Watchtower gadget is able to help a lot as a last pick in Snake Prairie. He's literally undefeatable if you draft him right in Snake Prairie. So honestly, maybe above Bull actually. I think I'll put him one spot above Bull. Alright. Next we have Jackie. So Jackie with that gadget change is absolutely crazy. I don't know who it's like drinking red wine while doing this gadget change, but 10 seconds for a 40% super speed for Jackie's gadget, it's absolutely crazy. Got to be one of the on the better end of A tier, probably mid to high A tier.
Honestly, I might put her low S tier just because she's a 40% uptime with speed without the gadget cooldown gear. And she does 10k burst, so as a last pick in ranks, you can shred the squishier comps, and there's literally nothing they can do about it because she's so fast.
Yeah, true. Alright, so I'm going to put her probably in between Gene and Byron. I think that works. Alright, next we have Janet. Janet's got to be one of the best. It's got to be the best brawler in the game right now, considering that you have a drop to base every 20 seconds. Her hypercharge is still really, really good. Hasn't been touched at all. I also think she's probably could contend for one of the best brawlers in the game right now.
I agree, yeah.
Alright. So now, this is going to be controversial. Since I feel like if anyone's watching and they're Heartstuck Mythic, they'll probably put Jessie as S tier. But in my opinion, I feel like Jessie's probably like barely C tier, maybe mid to low C tier. Because her shots are pretty easy to dodge. Maybe like, I feel like it's not great for her right now. Sure, her hypercharge charges fast and she could kind of be used as in heist, but they're just better options in heist. If you want like Nita's infinitely better on heist, especially with her bear and her gadget changes. I feel like Jessie just like lost her spot.
I think Nita just kind of replaced Jesse somehow. Not sure really how this happened, but like every single time I'd go Jesse, I'd rather just go Nita.
Yeah, and even then, her projectile is so slow. It feels like any of the good players in this game will be able to dodge her attacks. All right, so next we have Leon. So Leon, in my opinion, is actually pretty underrated. But even though he hasn't been seen like a lot, considering the damage nerf that he received a couple months ago, like even though it was a while ago, I feel like still the damage change keeps him at. He's probably a pretty balanced brawler. I feel like he's maybe a little bit below Brawl right now. His hypercharge is really good, but it does take 3.5 supers to charge his entire hyper. But he has one of the best sniper counters, especially with the invis and the fact that he has that much range to charge his super passively. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I think he's pretty damn balanced right now. Just a little bit better than Bell because he has like some counter play or like some crazy plays he can do with his invis.
Yeah. Alright, next we have Lou. Lou, honestly, I feel like he could actually be top of either below S tier or high A tier. Because I feel like even though his hyper got nerfed, none of his base kit got changed, and that's what makes him really broken. Is that still a very crazy hyper tank counter, and he's still really good on hot zone, which is really good. So I feel like high A tier works really well right now.
I'd honestly put him in low S tier just because his base kit didn't get touched at all. And with the reload speed change, he's just so strong. He can still cycle a bunch of supers, which cuts off like a big portion of the map. If you walk into it, you're gonna get frozen, stunned, and killed. He's gonna cycle to another super. So I feel like he should be low S tier.
Alright, so the lowest of low S tier. Alright, next we have Max. Okay, so Max got a hyper nerf in this update, and her dash got buffed. It's only 14 seconds. So honestly, I feel like high A tier. I feel like she was S tier before, but the hyper nerf, it takes a lot longer to charge her hypercharge. I think it's like 3 supers now. So honestly, I feel like A tier is probably best for her right now. High A tier.
Yeah, the hypercharge nerf kind of did bump her down a bit just because she was pretty dependent on her hypercharges. It's so good for the team.
Yeah. Okay, so unless you're 2D XCs or any crazy Dyna jumpers, I feel like the best Dyna is like probably very high C tier, but like that's about it.
Yeah, he's okay last pick in ranked right now. Pretty good counters, but like other than that, he doesn't really have a place. There's just better throwers.
Okay, so speaking of Dynamite, Mortis is here. Dynamite's arch nemesis. Personally, I put him in A tier. I put him probably maybe a little bit below Byron because he can get easily countered by like picks with high HP like Primo or like honestly anything with a stun, but he has a way to recover. His hypercharge is broken as hell, and the gadget change with a 15-second for a double reload is insane. So I put him mid A tier.
Yeah, I agree.
Alright, now Mr. P. Honestly think he's one of the top 3 brawlers in the game. I'm not gonna lie. He gets his hypercharge in like 2.5 supers. He has 2 porters, and if you use the gadget, it'll be 9,350 HP with both portals. It's annoying as hell, fast as hell, toxic as hell. I honestly feel like he's as good, if maybe a little bit less than, like, better into Frank.
Like I see Mr. P as like the king of passive modes now. Frank is still dominant everywhere else. So I'd put him just below Mr. P. I mean below Frank.
Yeah. Alright, that makes sense. Alright, now we have Nani with that 18-second return to sender gadget change. Honestly, I feel like a low 8, but her damage got nerfed like a while back, and I feel like her only good maps are on those very long range maps like Shooting Star. But she's so good on Shooting Star, I feel like you can put her at like maybe mid to high B tier, maybe just below B right now.
Yeah, she's pretty balanced.
Yeah. Alright, speaking of from before when we were talking about Jessie, now we have Nita. I feel like Nita's a crazy good lane. Wins most of her matchups, like into Tara, into Gale, and those types of brawlers. And the fact that her every single bear is gonna have a stun or a super because of the gadget change, I feel like I can put her above, comfortably put her above E, honestly.
She's pretty dominant into tanks. She cycles a bunch of bears. The enemy team can't really do much. So I think that's a good place for her.
Alright, yeah. Alright, next we have another underrated brawler, Otis. Otis, honestly, I feel like with vision gear on double swoosh or those bushy maps, and as a gem grab mid, he's actually really good in my opinion. But even though he is a pretty underrated brawler, I still think you'd put him at B tier, considering that his only real thing is tank counter and playing as a decent mid. And any sniper mid counters him, so honestly I feel like B tier, maybe a little bit below Bell, would probably be best.
Honestly, I put him a little bit above Bell just because his hypercharge kind of is pretty crazy. It's basically a confirmed kill, like no matter what.
Yeah, I can see that too because there's literally nothing the opponent can do with a 1 second stun. Like on top of that, the mute, it's insane. All right, next we have Pam. So Pam's F tier. I don't even think we need an explanation on that. No hyper, outdated kid. Turret is okay, but like it's kind of useless. The Brawler is just a fat super charger. All right, now we're on to Penny. Penny got a hypercharge nerf recently, but I still think she's mid to low A tier. Just straight up.
Yeah, I mean, her hypercharge nerf is kind of big, but she's just so strong and with controlling places. Like the hypercharge trigger gives her so much coverage.
Yeah, and on top of that, it feels like when she gets her hypercharge, even though it'll take longer, once she gets it, it feels like it's incredibly hard to get rid of if it's put in the right spot. And with the amount of walls, if you don't have a counter to the penny pick, you're going to be completely screwed for the rest of the game. Alright, now Piper, one of the most controversial of the gadget change. Honestly, with her curve being every 18 seconds, or push being every 18 seconds, I feel like she's just a little bit above Byron. She's going to become a very easy to use and stable staple sniper on almost every bounty knockout map in the game right now, minus like maps like Canal Grand. But other than that, honestly, I feel like Piper's a pretty solid sniper, mid A tier. It's probably the best place for her right now.
I mean, Piper's never really a bad pick unless Nani's open. So, other than that, yeah, there's not really many counters to her.
Alright, next we have Poco. So, Poco, honestly, I feel like ever since Barry came out, it's not really been the best, but he still is a very consistent healer. So, I honestly put him maybe high B tier, low A tier.
Yeah, I feel like he's kind of gone up in this current meta. I don't know. I've seen him picked a lot in hot zone, and like in some matchups, like the enemy team can't do anything. There's just too much healing. The hypercharge actually is pretty good.
Yeah, especially with the overheal and the shield on top of a completely healed Brawler. So you have a Frank, and then he hypercharge Poco's behind him. You are not killing that Frank for the rest of your life, bro. I'm sorry to say. Alright, next we have Primo. In all honesty, I feel like Primo is maybe high C tier, low B tier as his best. Even though he does get his gadget a lot, and the asteroid belt allows him to destroy the map in like every 10 seconds, completely demolishes the map. I feel like he's kind of useless until he gets his first super, and you have to be extremely skilled to use that super, completely versatile, and you need to have a super at all times. If you don't have the super, you're just a super meat shield.
I think he should be at least B tier, just because I don't know. He's pretty versatile, being a tank and a tank counter.
Yeah, he's one of the only brawlers that can do that, in all honesty. So I would say low B tier, probably just above Brock, because I feel like he has a better wall break because of his asteroid belt being 13 seconds. Even though it's reliant on where the enemies are, I feel like it's just better because of the big AoE and the crazy stuff you're able to do with it. Alright, right now, after the hypercharge nerf, I still think Rico hasn't changed a lot. I still say mid A tier. He's not like the S tier king like he used to be, but I feel like mid A tier is a solid spot for him.
Yeah, there's just super dominant on maps. Never loses his lane. Infinite gadgets lets him like never be countered by assassins.
Yeah, he's the gadget memes about to be coming into real life for every single Rico main on this planet. Alright, next we have Rosa, another change from the gadget change. Her gadgets are only 10 seconds. You can place a bush every 10 seconds. You can use her gadget every 10 seconds. It's gonna be a grass fest wherever she is. So honestly, I feel like she could be an underrated pick. I feel like I can put her above Bull, in all sincerity.
I'm low-key scared because I feel like Rose is gonna become an insane last pick just because like she can transform any map into Snake Prairie. Like 9 bushes every 10 seconds is a lot. It's like almost 1 bush a second. Like it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and her survivability with her star power where she heals whenever she's in books 300 per second is insane to say the least. Alright, next we have Ruffs. So Ruffs is actually a really good support brawler. Really good into maps that need bounces. And especially with that hypercharge change, considering he got a better stat buff with a 15% damage buff and a 15% shield buff. And that considering Rico's banned out most of the time on those maps where he's really good, like Pinball Jeeps and Hard Rock Mine, I feel like Ruffs has a good place in the meta. And on top of that, he's also a really good wall breaker with his super. I'll put him at the very bottom of 8.
Yeah, that's a good spot. I mean, he's a really good support. Poko's a little better just because he's just overall more consistent.
I guess so, yeah. Alright, so next we have Sandy. Sandy's probably he's a really good pick. His stun actually gets a buff because it's only 18 seconds per stun. You can just score a free goal every 18 seconds. And on top of that, he's really good as a gem grab lane, really good as brawl ball lane, really good as honestly a lane on any aggro map. So I feel like he's on the same tier as Nita in all honesty.
They kind of have similar roles, although Nita's a bit better into tanks, like on her own. But with tanks on Sandy, you can just cycle a bunch of supers, so it really depends on like your comp. But yeah, Sandy can be really strong.
Alright, next we have Shelly. So Shelly has some niches in maps like Snake Prairie, Center Stage maybe. Honestly, I think she's C tier, maybe even low C tier, like maybe a little bit below BB because she still has a use in the meta, but like there's no real versatile way to use her.
I'd honestly put her below Fang. I feel like Fang is a little more use case with his long range and like team wipe capabilities, while Shelly doesn't really have anything.
That is true. Alright, now a crazy pick. Alright, so Lola. Lola is getting hypercharge, but her hypercharge rate is 3.8 supers. That is absolutely insane for a clone that doesn't really do much else other than maybe a 15% damage buff and 1,000 extra HP. But she still is a good brawler from before, and with her gadget, her having infinite gadgets, or Eagle can survive a lot longer. I feel like she'll probably be B tier, honestly, maybe a little bit below Grom.
I think that's a good spot. She's really balanced right now. Hypercharge is strong, but it just takes too long. I think that's gonna need to get buffs.
Alright, so now we have one of the worst tanks in the game right now, Meg. Honestly, I'm gonna put her D tier, high D tier. Because
okay, with her hypercharge, she has a lot more viability.
Her hypercharge has an insane range, but she doesn't have the damage to compete. I feel like she still doesn't have damage to compete. I think it takes what, 2.5 supers to get her hyper.
I'd honestly put her just like low B. I mean, she's not like a terrible pick.
Low B?
And low B, yeah. I mean, she's pretty good. She's decent to snipers. She can counter tanks. She doesn't really get countered too easily.
I feel like she gets countered by snipers, and if she gets out of Mega Mech form and there's like an assassin on her, she's completely screwed. I guess maybe considering the fact that she has a hyper and with vision and on maps like Undermine, she's a really good lane. I think maybe C tier would probably be the best for her in all honesty.